What's going on, everybody? Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack a Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. You know Carmen Vitali. You can find her on social media at Carmen V, and of course over on Fox Sports as well. Carmen, before we get into it, I just want to remind everybody to get their Luigi's Frozen Pizzas for the Victory Sunday coming up, hopefully this Sunday, as well as for the remainder of the season. I'm going sausage and pepperoni today. You can never go wrong with any of their varieties of pizzas. You can find them in your local grocers. Freezer section, of course, luigispizza.com, and on social media at Luigi's Pizza. Now that we're all hungry, Carmen, I'll ask you to start off with how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's the rest of the season, man. I think it's just going to be wildly entertaining because there are so many things that can swing across the entire league, not even just like in this division or in this conference, like across the entire league, things can swing so drastically between now and the end of the regular season.
If the last hour of the games is the witching hour on the NFL, on the Red Zone channel, this is like the witching month of the season where everything can change in a moment's notice. Even just like, everyone right now is looking at the Lions and saying out of the playoffs, out of the division. If all of a sudden you get a couple things going, the wrong way for Green Bay and Chicago has a really tough schedule at the end and Detroit gets hot at the right time, like it's just crazy things can happen still for the remainder of the season. But that's what makes it fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how, there's so many division races that are tight, playoff races that are tight, teams that could go from like 9th to 2nd, 2nd to 9th. It's going to be a blast for the end of the season.
Yeah, you don't need to look any further than what just happened to the Bears after they lost the Packers, which was they went from the top seed in the NFC down to the 7th. That's how volatile this all is. That's how like the margin for error it doesn't exist. And I went into this last stretch of the season for the Bears saying like they have to win one of these games against Green Bay because it's going to be a lot harder if they don't. And then they have to finish out with the Lions. So the Packers have their own some of their own stuff to deal with, starting this week. But at least that's an AFC opponent where you're not necessarily too worried about how that's affecting your conference.
No,
seating.
But still, every game right now matters a ton. I was looking at the, New York Times playoff, simulator.
Predictor, yeah.
Green Bay has a 53% chance of getting the number 2 seed. Their next most likely seed is the 7 at 15%. So again, could be top, hosting the first 2 playoff games, or, you could be sitting at number 7 and having to go 3 straight road games if you want to make a Super Bowl. So it can get very crazy, very fast. I want to start with Packers Bears. I know this is going to air on Saturday, so it's obviously a little bit in the past at that time, but I wanted to just get your thoughts on Green Bay's win over Chicago and what Green Bay ultimately did to come away with that win.
Yeah, it's Toyotathon Jordan Love, right? We were all expecting it. We were all hoping for it, and it happened. It's been, the last couple of weeks, I think you've seen the full breadth of this offense, and then especially getting Jaden Reed back against the Bears, it was, everything was clicking. You had all different levels kind of being engaged. You had Christian Watson stretching the field. You had Jaden Reed coming out of the backfield a couple of times, which was always so fun before he got injured. And he's just that Swiss Army knife that I think this offense needs. Would you like to see getting your first round pick a little bit more involved? Sure. But right now, I think the 3 pass catchers that are on the field most often between Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed are your best pass catchers at this point. So they're certainly the ones that have the rapport with Jordan Love. And the biggest thing that struck me about the Packers in that game was Jordan Love specifically is back to being the Jordan Love that we kind of expected. I think there was a lull in the middle of the season there where you and I talked about it. He looked hesitant. He didn't look like he trusted himself or the system. And he wasn't taking the risks that we know Jordan Love likes to take. And he just wasn't playing as aggressive as you want Jordan Love to play because he does have the talent and he does have the accuracy and he does have all of that. That you had the early pick, but he bounced right back from that. And we were back to seeing, kind of that gunslinger in Jordan that we all wanted to see. And as a result, the offense looked fantastic.
It is an interesting dynamic of, if you really look at his first now almost 3 years as a starter, the first half of 2023, they kind of kept him very cautious, kind of, handcuffed him a little bit and didn't give him full reign of the offense. Didn't look great. The second half of 2023, they let him completely air it out, sling it, and do whatever he wanted, basically. Looked unbelievable. And then in 2024, in large part due to some of the injury stuff. You could tell at times he was tentative, and he went through a beginning of 2024 where he threw some picks. And there was a big question. He had the pick six against Detroit. I was in that press conference after the game. You could tell he's like, yeah, I'm affecting the team in a negative way right now. You could tell it was really weighing on him that he was having some of those turnovers. But you got to the second half of 2024 and he was more cautious because of it. And you didn't see quite the Jordan Love that we were used to, where he, again, is best when he's airing it out and slinging it and having the confidence of 10,000 suns at his back. And like and then all of a sudden this year, you started off really good against Detroit. And then there was, again, like you mentioned, that little lull where it looked like they were maybe playing a little bit more cautious, a lot of plays behind the backfield and things like that. And it just didn't quite look right. And all of a sudden, Jordan Love starts airing it out again, playing aggressive. And we see Toyotathon Jordan Love take off again. He has to be that gunslinger. And the thing about him is like, usually that term gunslinger comes with like 30 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, or 32 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, something like that. Jordan's at 4. So like, even when he is airing it out and when he is being aggressive, it's not costing them a ton of interceptions at the moment or anything like that. And the reward has been incredible. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this is just the norm moving forward. And we see this version of Jordan Love for hopefully basically the remainder of his career.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he's warranted that confidence in him. I mean, just the way that you laid it all out. But then in pressure situations and in literal pressure situations, I mean, you talk about Jordan Love against pressure and against the blitz. I mean, he had 150 passer rating against the blitz in that game against Chicago. He is just completely unfazed right now. And when you can get him playing at that confidence level, he's willing to take those risks. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact you do have a defense that you can rely on right now. They're not getting the takeaways, but obviously with Micah Parsons in that defensive front, I mean, he was all over the place when it came to that Chicago game. I know he was frustrated and didn't actually get to Caleb as much as he wanted to. However, his presence was felt all along that line, whether they were, rushing him from some of those interior spots. I'm really pleased with kind of the creativity we're seeing up front. But Jordan Love knows that he can kind of rely on this defense now. And I think that Matt LaFleur knows that they can rely on this defense and they can afford to make some more of those, or take more of those risks. And he is the best when he is allowed to play free and be aggressive. But the refinement to his game too. I mean, I think also when you talk about gunslinger, people just think it's like guys chucking the ball down the field, right? And they're whatever. But like there is a finesse to Jordan Love's game when you talk about like the touch on his passes and the way that he lobs these passes up, knowing exactly where it's going to come down for his receiver. That and doing that without putting it in harm's way. So many of those floaters can be so dangerous because it allows time for some DBs to get underneath it or to contest it or that, the other. We're not seeing that, to your point, where Jordan only has 4 interceptions. So he's not putting the ball in harm's way despite kind of these floating passes, these touch passes, these like just kind of that back shoulder fade, like that he like off of his back foot and he's just floating it over to like the fade route.
The fadeaway
shots. Thank you. I'm not a basketball girly, but that is what is so cool to me right now is yes, he has this kind of gunslinger mentality and that's what he's at his best, but that doesn't come at the expense of finesse and touch and accuracy and all of that kind of stuff. And so when you get that going, I mean, that's really hard to defend.
Well, that's why I'm done talking about Jordan could play with better fundamentals. But he's 68% completion percentage, almost a bunch of touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's playing unbelievable. He's earned the right to play with the fundamentals that he wants to play with. And I don't know for like other people, but there's certain, just whether you're on a football field, soccer field, a basketball court or whatever, there's certain shots that you have that golf course that you just feel more comfortable with. There's a certain iron that you feel more comfortable with. And it doesn't always make sense. It's like some other like great golfer might be like, yeah, this is where you want to use a pitching wedge. And you're just like, nope, I'm using an iron because I feel comfortable with my iron or whatever it might be. Jordan feels comfortable when he
Did we not learn anything from Happy Gilmore? Did we not learn anything?
Nothing, apparently. We used to be a proper society. But, he very clearly feels comfortable with this style of play. And you can almost feel like just the confidence he has. Where it's like, sometimes when he's doing all of the mechanically correct stuff, you can almost see him thinking and almost like aiming to throw. Whereas like when he's just kind of loose and playing free and like, oh, back foot whip, it's like it's there and it works perfect. That's him. That's Jordan. I don't need to change it. I don't need anything different. I am very cool with this brand of Jordan Love, who is third in MVP voting, fifth in every advanced, fifth or better in every advanced analytic you could possibly look at, and is playing at the top of his game. I'm cool with this version. The only thing we need, I'll give credit. I gave credit to Toyota in one of my live shows the other day. It's so easy for a corporation to take this and be like, look at this, and then it becomes really lame and stupid, and it's cringeworthy. They've done a pretty good job of letting this thing breathe organically and not making too much of it and not trying. The discount double check by State Farm, guys, like, all right, it's too corporate now, it's stupid. Toyota's mostly let this thing breathe. Now, just if we could get this thing extended to say like February 16th, somewhere around that range, that's the only thing we need from a Toyotathon here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can Toyota just extend that sale? Because then, I think a lot of people would be happy in general.
Yes.
And I think that would allow Jordan Love to increase the shelf life on Toyotathon and make it to the Super Bowl. We only need it till February 9th. You only need it till February 9th. That's it. That's it. That's not that bad. That's like another month.
No, they can extend a little bit. Come on, help us out, Toyota. I wanted to ask you how you felt the Bears came out looking from that game. Was it what you expected? Was it disappointing? Was it above expectation? What did you come away thinking of Chicago from that game?
Yeah, I mean, there's no moral victories, and that's kind of what I've spent the week talking about here in Chicago. We obviously wanted to win that game, but at the same time, that game, like when you follow up your win in Philadelphia on Black Friday in front of the entire country with a hard-fought, nail-biting, like down to the wire game against your biggest rival. I mean, this is what you want, and it's not going to go your way every time. That no good true rivalry does. And I mean, that's the thing. Chicago's desperate to win against the Packers because it hasn't happened a whole lot over the last 30 years. But that I came away, learning or having just as much confidence in the Bears as I did before and going into that game. That didn't like hinder any sort of progress for me. That didn't make me think that, oh, whatever. Like, I personally don't think they're there yet, but to put up that kind of fight against a really, really good opponent 2 weeks in a row, by the way, and not maybe quite get there. That second half told me so much, and it's been a microcosm of this entire season for the Bears, where you just can't count them out. And they have a lot of belief in themselves. And there's a lot of continuity within kind of that belief system, which we haven't seen in Chicago in a very long time. And it's been, the head coaching carousel and this, that, the other, where it's just, you haven't had much of a culture or a backbone, even foundation to lean on. And that's not true of these Bears. I love the way they're constructed. I love the things that the coaches have prioritized scheme-wise when you're talking about this. The passing game's not there yet with Caleb or his receivers. There's more to the passing game than just Caleb Williams. But they decided to base this offense on the run game because they know that they have a good offensive line. They went out and paid for it. And that comes through because not only do they have a physical offensive line, they have a smart offensive line. So you can run a very complex run scheme in Chicago and lean on that and let Caleb lean on that. And I think that second half too, where you saw Caleb go almost exclusively play action, it was an effort by Ben Johnson to make some halftime adjustments that made things easier on Caleb. And I think that he's really good at that. And if you can keep doing that while Caleb's developing, but be able to lean on a really potent rushing attack on top of a defense that is taking the ball away, that is doing some good things, though they have their deficiencies too, that's the way to build a team. That's a way to build confidence. And the fact that they have 9 wins already. I mean, I went into the season saying like at or even right below 500. If they got 8 games, I was going to be ecstatic. It was, hey, this is great. They're headed in the right direction. That's a successful season to me. So they've already surpassed that. And I don't see them going, not winning, like winless the rest of the way. So at this point, I expected them to lose that game at Lambeau. I don't expect them to lose the game at Soldier Field next weekend. But I still think there's some weirdness to this Bears team because they just don't, they're not consistent. They are not they're not a trustworthy contender. Watching Caleb Williams play football is still an extremely stressful experience, especially if you have skin in the game. But there's so many good things that you see him do that if he can take that next step and put it together and play within the structure of this offense, play with, what Ben Johnson wants him to do, it's going to be a really, really cool rivalry for the next, foreseeable future. And that's what you want between these two teams. The NFL in general is better when the Bears and Packers are going back and forth at it. And that hasn't happened in so long.
And the next one we get is a primetime game on Saturday now, 7:20 kickoff or 7 p.m. kickoff, whatever it is, on Saturday night, which should be a ton of fun. I'm with the thing I would say about Chicago, and we kind of talked about it last week as well, is ahead of schedule. They're ahead of schedule, and Ben Johnson's putting, like you said, a formula together on how to win football games right now. While Caleb Williams still gets more ingrained as an NFL quarterback and ingrained in his specific offense, and while they try to find some sort of solution for their pass rush, because you could tell they couldn't really get to Jordan, and then they had to bring the blitz. And as you mentioned, against the blitz, he just completely tore them apart.
Jordan just shreds the blitz.
Yeah, exactly. So they kind of get caught in no man's land, because if they don't bring pressure, he's going to completely eat them alive too. So that's what the big thing that they're going to have to figure out. But for year one under Ben Johnson, definitely ahead of schedule. Now I know you said like 8 or 9 wins to begin the season would have been a successful season. I look at it now of like, if they don't make the playoffs after just being the 1 seed last week, there does almost feel like a connotation now of like, oh, that's almost a disappointment. Do you feel like they at least have to? I feel like they have to get 2 more wins. I feel like they have to get 2 more wins. So, I mean, one's against Cleveland, right? So you have one game against Cleveland that they should win this weekend, and then to me, they got to pick up the brutal final 3 games against Green Bay, San Francisco, and Detroit. In those final 3, I feel like they have to get at least one of those, and then it'll feel, even if they get to the playoffs and lose in the first round or whatever, that would feel like a pretty dang successful season for Chicago. Hey friends, it's time to get our sleeper picks in for next Sunday. We are going Sunday night football, Minnesota versus Dallas, and we're going to start with 3 selections, starting with Dak Prescott. Fewer than 264.5 passing yards. Minnesota's not good, but their defense still is. I think they hold Dak Prescott to fewer than 264.5 passing yards. JJ McCarthy, I don't think he can stack success 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to go fewer than 196.5 passing yards for McCarthy. And then lastly, Will Reichard, more than 1.5 field goals made in this game. Minnesota will get some point production. I don't expect it to be a lot of touchdowns. So Will Reichard, more than 1.5 field goals in this game. The best part is you can get any selections in that you want over on Sleeper, and you can get a 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code Packaday. Again, 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code Packaday. Or if you want to mirror my selections, email those selections to the email address on your screen, and you could win $100 redeemable on the Sleeper app just by mirroring my picks. So you don't even have to get them right. So get those sleeper picks in, either mirror mine, email the address on your screen for a chance to win $100 redeemable on the Sleeper app, or pick your own and get a 100% match up to $100 by utilizing code Packaday. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper for details. They're available in over 25 states nationwide. So what are you waiting for? Get those sleeper picks in right now.
I mean, they have to get one of those in the division. They have to get either the Green Bay or the Lions game to even have a significant shot at the playoffs. So they have to get one of those. I think that they will go, they'll get the 2 more wins. And if they do that, then if they're flirting with the playoffs, even if they don't ultimately make it because of something that's out of their control, I'm probably in the minority in Chicago in like people that talk about the Bears, because I have always been like, hey, I get that if they like lose steam at the end of the season, that's disappointing because there are some of these, expectations, but like there are still some glaring weaknesses with this team. Yeah. And I don't think do you want to make the playoffs for morale? And I get that the season starts over and, this team is ascending and they are playing better and better football every single week. And so by the time they get to the playoffs, maybe things could change a little bit, but I just don't think they can change drastically enough to make them a real contender right now. And I think that's fine. I mean, How many teams end up being a contender in their first year after a complete overhaul? I mean, again, they're so ahead of schedule. So I'm trying to be very realistic about it. I think I'm in the, like I said, I'm in the minority in Chicago, even among people that talk about the Bears for a living. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that so much has been established about this team to give you optimism going into next season, and that's okay. Like, you don't need to push for a Super Bowl this year. And I don't want the expectations, to get so high that, if next year even like they only like they're a while, like if they don't win the division next year, everybody's just like out on this team. Like, let's not put the cart in front of the horse. That's
Yeah.
my point with the Bears right now, because there are still some glaring issues with the team, and rightfully and understandably so.
What I'm going to be really interested in is how they handle this offseason, because we've seen a couple of teams this year go too aggressive too fast. The Commanders, I think, are an example of going too aggressive too fast.
Great example.
I would say the Indianapolis Colts, even when they got some momentum this year of going Sauce Gardner, 2 first-round picks, to me, too aggressive too fast. I'll be interested to see if they go ultra. Like, are they going to be looking at trying to trade for a huge defensive end, or like go super aggressive, or do they let this thing breathe a little bit more, try to have it be a little bit more organic over the next couple of years? That's going to be intriguing to me. But like we said, I had a schedule for Chicago right now for sure. Let's talk some Packers Broncos as we get set for this huge game coming up for Green Bay on Sunday. What are you looking at in this one, and what are some of your keys to this game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this Broncos defense is no joke. And that's the biggest thing. I think that's what it comes down to. And with the inconsistencies that the Packers have had due to injury or what have you along the offensive line, like it's worrisome. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they have the thing about Denver is just they have the ability to create pressure from multiple levels. Right. It's not just their defensive front you need to be scared about. Their linebackers are great and they're involved in pressure schemes. And they have multiple great, players in the secondary. And they're a really complete and really tough defense. And it's what this team relies on. I think when it comes to Denver's offense, I think I go back and forth on Bo Nix. I think that he has a lot of talent. And I'm wondering, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think he's just kind of held back by the scheme a little bit. I think that in the early goings, when you're trying to get him, developed into an NFL quarterback, the Drew Brees school for how to quarterback good is a good one. Like, you methodically try and stay within the rhythm of the offense. You go down the field. You don't like try to air it out and push it down the field very much. It's not a very vertical offense, right? That's what Sean Payton's kind of known for. You pick your spots here and there, of course, but like it's really just one of those where we're just going to like wear you down as an offense and make sure that whatever. I don't think that serves Bo Nix as much anymore. I think that he is capable of doing more. I think he is talented enough to be pushing the ball down the field a little bit more, to be stretching the field a little bit more vertically, and to be taking some of those risks. And that's what doesn't, like, when we talk about the Packers and how Jordan Love can afford to take risks because of what the defense has been able to do, that times a million with the Broncos at this point. You already rely on that defense. So why not take a few more risks? Why not open it up a little bit more? Why not let Bo Nix play a little bit looser and faster and this and that and the other? You have a defense that can compensate for that because it already is. So I want to see more from Bo Nix. I want to see more aggressiveness from that. And I think that could really give teams a lot of problems as they they're looking down the barrel of the postseason right now. I don't think that you're going to be able to keep playing like you have been and go the distance in these playoffs in the AFC without getting a little bit more aggressive and creative.
We talked earlier about Jordan Love kind of being handcuffed early with the offense, and then they had to figure out, hey, you got to let him cook a little bit more. We talked about with Caleb that right now Ben Johnson, especially in the second half of that game, so all right, let's do more bootleg play action. Let's get some stuff that he can make easy reads on and utilize his talent without having to do too much thinking of progressions and things like that. I wonder if this is just part of the progression for Bo Nix, and Sean Payton is saying, hey, first couple of years, almost like Roethlisberger-esque, Flacco-esque, where they came in early in their careers and they had the defenses and they just said, hey, we don't need you guys to do a ton early on. Just kind of manage the game. We make a big play here or there, but our defense and running game can get this for you. And maybe that's the way he's kind of managing it with Nix. But at some point, if Denver wants to reach their ceiling and if they want to be a true Super Bowl, at some point, Flacco had to become Flacco and Roethlisberger had to become Roethlisberger. You have to let Nix have the leeway to be able to do that. right now it does seem like he's maybe a little bit micromanaged within that offense, but tough to argue with 10 consecutive wins in Denver too, in the way that they're playing right now.
It is. And I mean, that's the other thing though about Bo Nix is like he's doing what you're asking him to do. Right. Like I think that game against the Raiders, he had like an over an 80% completion rate. You know, he like I think threw the ball 30 something times, 30, 35, 38 times, something like that. Like he's doing exactly again, like the Drew Brees thing of just let's go down the field and whatever. But I think his arm is better than that. I think that like we were just talking about, this scheme needs to evolve and it needs to trust him a little bit more because he's done what you wanted him to do in Denver. And again, you have this incredible defense to lean on when it comes to, you know, a defense that can get the ball back for you, a defense that can stop, you know, opponent drives in their tracks. And that's, again, what's the most concerning thing. I don't think there's any other real answer to this of like what this game comes down to than the trenches and the Packers offensive line versus this front seven in Denver that can just hurt you in so many ways.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big thing for me. I'm really looking forward to, I know they're not ever against each other, but Jeff Hafley versus Vance Joseph, two people who could be top of the, you know, head coaching search in the offseason. I think Jeff Hafley would be a terrible head coach. I don't think anybody should be interested in him whatsoever. He's a defensive coordinator only, in my opinion, but this is a really fun game for two defensive coordinators who have, I'm sure, head coaching aspirations this offseason. I think this is going to be more of a defensive battle. I'm kind of looking forward to it, seeing which offense can take care of the football and can grind out a win against what I think are two very, very good defenses, and seeing which defense can be more opportunistic, force a turnover that maybe changes the game. I think this one's going to be a little bit more low scoring, and I'm all for it. I'm really hoping for kind of a bloody knockout, drag out defensive battle.
Yeah, I'm with you too, especially because of the fact that not only is you know, obviously we're talking about Denver's front seven being incredibly good, but the thing is they're not even blitzing that much when it comes like that game against the Raiders. And granted, it was the Raiders. Raiders are very different than the Packers, but most of their pass rush came with 4, and they were getting home with 4. And when you can do that, and then you have guys like Pat Surtain in your secondary, and you can do a lot of things kind of coverage wise. That's really difficult. And this is where, you know, Jordan Love's accuracy is going to be tested like that. You want him to stay aggressive, like we were talking about. You want him to keep throwing into those tight windows and to be unafraid to do so. But it's going to be paramount that those fadeaway jumpers are still not catchable. And going up against guys like Pat Surtain, that again, the margin for error just gets that much smaller. I think Jordan can handle it, but that's going to be a big thing that I'm watching as well, is just how accurate Jordan can be, how much he can take care of the football when he is still taking those risks and trying to push the ball down the field against this defense.
Can't wait. It's a super fun matchup, and it'll be a fun one to break down next week, regardless of what happened. And yeah, hopefully Green Bay can pick up a win. Real quick, Rams Lions. What do you can the Lions stay alive?
I honestly think this is going to be the game that's going to tell me how viable they are for the rest of the season and how viable they are as far as like postseason hopes. And I mean, that's a literal thing too. I think that, you know, if they lose this game, that really like makes things hard for them. I don't know the exact percentages from the playoff predictor or the simulator if they lose, but if they can beat the Rams, which again are one of the best teams in the conference and a team that you're going to have to go through inevitably, then I can be like, all right, you know, they can figure out a way around the injuries they're dealing with and this, that, the other. I can't believe that they lost Brian Branch. The hits just keep coming for them. So it's kind of like the stop, he's already dead. Like, you know, but the Lions keep being like, to use another movie reference or pop culture reference, they're like the Knights of Neep in Monty Python, where like the guy's like, it's been a flesh wound, and he's got no arms and no legs, and he's just a stump
trying to fight.
Like that's essentially what I feel like the Lions are and have been. That's the hard part for the Lions, is they, you know, this seems to have happened the last like 3 years where they just keep getting beat to you know what by the end of the season. And like, it's not that they're not a talented team. It's not that their scheme, you know, is lacking in any way, this, that, the other. It's just these injuries that are just completely catastrophic for the Lions postseason chances. So I hope that doesn't happen to them again this year. But I can't say that I have a whole lot of confidence when, again, every single game, it seems like another pivotal part of your team is going down and out for the long haul.
If they don't make the playoffs, this little era of Detroit's going to be really interesting to look back at. Had so much success, but couldn't get it done in 2023, 2024. They lose in the first round, and then 2025 don't make the playoffs. Just to go back to the percentages, they're a 40% chance to make the playoffs right now. They go to 61% with a win, down to 31% with a loss. And obviously, if some other things happen, Chicago wins, things like that, that hurts their odds as well. So, yeah, not a great spot to be in if Detroit can't pick up this win against a very, very good Rams team. Carmen, I cannot thank you enough. Fox Sports Radio, and of course, Carmi V on social media. Anything else you want to plug on the way out?
No, that's it. Go ahead and go to my social media. That's kind of where I'm doing all of my stuff and all my appearances appear. But tune in on Saturdays from 3 to 5 Central on Fox Sports Radio, and you'll hear my voice. And this week we have Alex Curry back, so I get my co-host back for after like 4 or 5 months. So that's fun.
There you go. Well, congratulations on that. Keep killing it. We appreciate you a ton coming on every week and talking some Packers with us. We'll talk to you next week. Follow her at Carmi V. You can find me at Andy Herman NFL. That's going to do it. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.